Question 1. Who is primarily responsible for managing the product backlog, including its content, availability, and ordering? A. The Scrum Master. B. The development team. C. The product owner. D. The project manager. Answer: the product owner. The product owner is solely accountable for maximizing the value of the product resulting from the work of the Scrum team, and managing the product backlog is their primary means to achieve this. This accountability includes clearly expressing product backlog items, ordering them to best achieve goals and missions, and ensuring the product backlog is transparent, visible, and understood by everyone. For instance, the product owner decides which features are most important for the next release based on market feedback and business value. Remember, the product owner steers the product's direction through diligent backlog management. Question 2. What is the time box for a daily scrum? A. 30 minutes for a 1-month sprint. B. 15 minutes for any sprint length. C. 15 minutes for a 1-month sprint. D. As long as the developers need to synchronize. Answer: 15 minutes for any sprint length. The Daily Scrum is a 15-minute event for the developers, held every day of the sprint, to inspect progress toward the sprint goal and adapt the sprint backlog as necessary. This strict time box encourages focus and keeps the meeting concise, ensuring it serves its purpose without becoming a detailed problem-solving session or status update for stakeholders. For example, even if a sprint is only 1 week long, the Daily Scrum is still 15 minutes to facilitate quick planning for the next 24 hours. Always respect the time box, it's there to promote efficiency and focus. Question 3. What is the primary purpose of the Sprint Retrospective? A. To inspect the increment and adapt the product backlog. B. To inspect how the last sprint went with regards to individuals, interactions, processes, and tools, and to plan improvements. C. To discuss what will be done in the next sprint and select product backlog items. D. To present the results of the sprint to key stakeholders and gather feedback. Answer: to inspect how the last sprint went with regards to individuals, interactions, processes, and tools, and to plan improvements. The Sprint Retrospective is a crucial event where the Scrum team inspects itself and creates a plan for improvements to be enacted during the next sprint. This continuous improvement mindset helps the team become more effective and enjoyable for future sprints, reflecting Scrum's commitment to adaptation and self-management. For instance, the team might identify that their daily stand-ups are too long and decide to implement a new structure for the next sprint. Think of it as a dedicated time for the team to learn and grow together. Question 4. When is a product backlog item considered done? A. When the product owner accepts it. B. When the development team determines it is complete. C. When it meets the definition of done. D. When all remaining tasks for the item are moved to the Done column on the Scrum board. Answer: when it meets the definition of done. A product backlog item is done when it adheres to the definition of done, DOD, which is a formal description of the state of the increment when it meets the quality measures required for the product. The DOD creates transparency by providing a shared understanding of what work was completed as part of the increment and is used to assess when work is complete on the product increment. For example, if the DOD states that code must be peer-reviewed and pass automated tests, an item is only done once these criteria are met. The definition of done ensures quality and a shared understanding of readiness. Question 5. Which of the following is not a Scrum value? A. Commitment. B. Courage. C. Transparency. D. Focus. Answer: transparency. The 5 Scrum values are commitment, focus, openness, respect, and courage, which collectively provide guidance to the Scrum team regarding their work, actions, and behavior. While transparency is a pillar of empiricism in Scrum, it is not one of the core Scrum values that guide the team's mindset and interactions. For example, a team demonstrates courage by tackling difficult problems or speaking up when something isn't right, which is distinct from simply making work visible. Always remember the 5 values help underpin the empirical process. Question 6. What does the Scrum Master do during the daily Scrum? A. Leads the discussion and assigns tasks to developers. B. Ensures the developers are having the meeting and facilitates its conduct if needed, but does not participate as a developer. C. Takes notes on blockers and reports them to the product owner. D. Actively participates by providing status updates on their own work. Answer. Ensures the developers are having the meeting and facilitates its conduct if needed, but does not participate as a developer. The Scrum Master serves the Scrum team by ensuring that the daily Scrum occurs and that the developers understand its purpose. The daily Scrum is an event for the developers to inspect progress toward the sprint goal and adapt the sprint backlog, so the Scrum Master is a facilitator and coach, not a participant in the work or a leader of the discussion. For instance, if the developers start to get off topic, the Scrum Master might gently remind them of the 15-minute time box and the meeting's purpose. The Scrum Master supports, rather than directs, the team's self-management. Question 7. Who is responsible for all sprint backlog items being ready for the sprint planning? A. The product owner. B. The developers. C. The Scrum Master. D. The product owner and the developers equally. Answer. The developers. While the product owner is responsible for the product backlog, it is the developers who select the items for the sprint backlog during sprint planning. Therefore, they are accountable for having a clear understanding of what they can commit to and what needs to be ready, refined enough, for them to select. Product backlog refinement is an ongoing activity often done by the developers in collaboration with the product owner to ensure items are prepared for future sprints. For example, developers might spend time during a sprint breaking down large items or clarifying requirements with the product owner, preparing them for the next sprint planning. The developers take ownership of the sprint backlog, including its readiness. Question 8. What is the main purpose of the sprint goal? A. To define the scope of the sprint and ensure all selected product backlog items are completed. B. To provide guidance to the developers on why they are building the increment. C. To create a fixed set of features that must be delivered by the end of the sprint. D. To serve as a long-term objective for the product. Answer. To provide guidance to the developers on why they are building the increment. The sprint goal is a single objective for the sprint. Although the sprint backlog provides what will be done, the sprint goal provides the overarching purpose or why behind the sprint, offering flexibility in the exact work needed to achieve it. It helps the developers understand the value they are creating and enables them to self-manage and adapt their work if challenges arise, without compromising the sprint's objective. For instance, a sprint goal might be, enable users to create an account, allowing the team to choose the specific tasks needed to achieve that. The sprint goal is a commitment that fosters focus and flexibility. Question 9. Who creates the definition of done? A. The Scrum Master in collaboration with the product owner. B. The development team exclusively. C. The Scrum team, developers, product owner, Scrum Master. D. The organization, if one already exists, otherwise, the developers. Answer. The organization, if one already exists, otherwise, the developers. If the organization has a standard definition of done for all products, Scrum teams must follow it as a minimum. If there is no such organizational standard, the developers of the Scrum team must create a definition of done for the increment. This ensures that everyone involved understands the quality criteria that must be met for work to be considered complete and releasable. For example, if a company policy requires all code to pass a security audit, that becomes part of the DoD. The definition of done establishes a common understanding of quality and completeness. Question 10. How does a Scrum team get empowered to self-manage? A. The Scrum Master assigns tasks to developers and monitors their progress. B. The product owner defines detailed requirements and provides strict instructions. C. The team is cross-functional, has all skills necessary to create value, and is trusted to organize their own work. D. The organization provides a detailed project plan and tracks individual performance. Answer: the team is cross-functional, has all skills necessary to create value, and is trusted to organize their own work. Self-managing teams choose how best to accomplish their work rather than being directed by others outside the team. This requires them to be cross-functional, meaning they possess all the necessary skills within the team to create value, without relying on external dependencies. By trusting the team to organize their own work, the organization fosters an environment where the team can creatively solve problems and optimize their process. For instance, developers autonomously decide who works on which specific tasks during the sprint. Self-management means the team decides how to do the work. Question 11. What is the role of management outside the Scrum team in Scrum? A. To direct the Scrum team's daily activities and assign tasks. B. To measure individual performance of Scrum team members. C. To support the Scrum Master and product owner by providing resources and removing organizational impediments. D. To ensure that the Scrum team adheres strictly to the project plan. Answer: to support the Scrum Master and product owner by providing resources and removing organizational impediments. In Scrum, management primarily serves to support the empirical process and the self-managing nature of the Scrum team. Their role shifts from directing to enabling, ensuring the team has the necessary environment, resources, and support to be effective. This often involves removing organizational impediments that are beyond the Scrum team's control, such as budget approvals or cross-departmental policy issues. For example, if a team needs access to a new software tool, management would facilitate that acquisition. Management acts as an enabler, not a commander. Question 12. What is the primary advantage of having a cross-functional development team? A. It eliminates the need for a product owner. B. It ensures the team members have diverse interests. C. It ensures the team has all the necessary skills to create an increment without outside dependencies. D. It makes it easier for the Scrum Master to assign tasks. Answer: it ensures the team has all the necessary skills to create an increment without outside dependencies. A cross-functional team means that the team members collectively possess all the skills required to create value in each sprint without relying on people outside the team for specific tasks like coding, testing, or design. This significantly reduces delays and handoffs, promoting efficiency and cohesion within the team. For example, a cross-functional team might include front-end developers, back-end developers, and testers all working together on the same feature. Cross-functionality empowers the team to deliver end-to-end value autonomously. Question 13. Which statement best describes the sprint backlog? A. It is a complete list of all features to be developed in the product. B. It is the product backlog items selected for the sprint, plus the plan for delivering them. C. It is a fixed set of tasks that must be completed by the developers. D. It is the product backlog items that the product owner desires for the next sprint. Answer: it is the product backlog items selected for the sprint, plus the plan for delivering them. The sprint backlog is composed of the product backlog items selected for the sprint goal, and the concrete plan created by the developers for delivering the increment and realizing the sprint goal. It is a highly visible, real-time picture of the work that the developers plan to accomplish during the sprint, making it a forecast rather than a fixed commitment. For example, it includes the selected user stories and the detailed technical tasks the team intends to perform. The sprint backlog is the developer's actionable plan to achieve the sprint goal. Question 14. What is the recommended size for a Scrum team? A. 3 to 9 people, including the Scrum Master, product owner, and developers. B. 7 plus or minus 2 developers, plus a Scrum Master and product owner. C. 10 or fewer people, including the Scrum Master, product owner, and developers. D. No more than 9 developers, plus a Scrum Master and product owner. Answer: 10 or fewer people, including the Scrum Master, product owner, and developers. The Scrum Guide recommends that a Scrum team be small enough to remain nimble and large enough to complete significant work within a sprint, specifically stating that it should be 10 or fewer people. This size ensures effective communication and collaboration, fostering better self-management and reducing complexity. If the team becomes too large, it can hinder efficient communication, as seen in the challenge of coordinating a large group for a simple dinner outing. A compact team promotes better agility and shared understanding. Question 15. What does the product owner do during sprint planning? A. Leads the technical discussion and decides how the work will be done. B. Presents the product backlog items that best achieve the product goal and explains them to the developers. C. Facilitates the meeting and removes impediments for the developers. D. Ensures the sprint backlog is updated with all tasks for the sprint. Answer: Presents the product backlog items that best achieve the product goal and explains them to the developers. During sprint planning, the product owner ensures that product backlog items are well defined and understood by the developers, clearly articulating the product goal and helping the team select what to include in the upcoming sprint. They communicate the business value and context of the items so the developers can forecast what they can accomplish. For instance, the product owner might elaborate on customer feedback driving a particular feature request. The product owner brings the what and why to sprint planning. Question 16. When does the next sprint begin? A. Immediately after the sprint review. B. Immediately after the sprint retrospective. C. When the product owner gives approval. D. On the first day of the new calendar month. Answer: Immediately after the sprint retrospective. A core principle of Scrum is that sprints are contiguous, meaning one sprint begins immediately after the conclusion of the previous sprint, without any gaps in between. This continuous flow helps maintain momentum and ensures that the team is always working on delivering value. For example, once the team finishes discussing improvements in the retrospective, they immediately transition to planning the next iteration of work. There are no breaks between sprints, it's a continuous cycle of delivery and learning. Question 17. What is the Scrum Master's primary service to the product owner? A. Managing the product backlog and ensuring its clarity. B. Facilitating Scrum events as requested or needed. C. Ensuring that goals, scope, and product domain are understood by everyone on the Scrum team. D. Removing impediments for the product owner. Answer: Ensuring that goals, scope, and product domain are understood by everyone on the Scrum team. The Scrum Master serves the product owner in several ways, and a key aspect is ensuring that the product goal, the scope of the product, and the entire product domain are well understood by the Scrum team and stakeholders. This clarity helps in effective product backlog management and alignment towards a shared vision. For instance, the Scrum Master might coach the product owner on techniques to communicate the product goal more effectively or to refine backlog items. The Scrum Master helps the product owner clearly articulate the product's direction. Question 18. What does empiricism mean in Scrum? A. Making decisions based on extensive upfront planning and detailed documentation. B. Making decisions based on objective data and experience, rather than speculation. C. Relying solely on the product owner's intuition for product development. D. Following a predefined set of rules and processes strictly. Answer: Making decisions based on objective data and experience, rather than speculation. Empiricism asserts that knowledge comes from experience and making decisions based on what is observed. In Scrum, this translates into transparency, making all work visible, inspection, regularly checking progress and outcomes, and adaptation, adjusting based on what is learned. For example, a team uses the outcome of a sprint review, inspection, and stakeholder feedback, data, to adjust the product backlog, adaptation, for the next sprint. Empiricism is about learning by doing and continuously adjusting your path based on real-world feedback. Question 19. Who is accountable for creating a done increment each sprint? A. The Scrum Master. B. The product owner. C. The developers. D. The entire Scrum team. Answer: the entire Scrum team. While the developers are committed to creating the increment, the accountability for creating a valuable, useful, done increment each sprint rests with the entire Scrum team. The Scrum Master ensures the process is followed, and the product owner ensures the right things are being built, but the collective effort and shared accountability of all three roles lead to the increment's creation. For example, if an increment isn't done, it's a team problem to address, not just a developer issue. The increment is a collective output, not just the developer's responsibility. Question 20. When should the product backlog be refined? A. Only during sprint planning. B. Only before sprint planning. C. As needed, throughout the sprint. D. Only once at the beginning of the project. Answer: as needed, throughout the sprint. Product backlog refinement is an ongoing activity to add detail, estimates, and order to product backlog items. It's an ongoing collaborative effort between the product owner and the developers, often occupying no more than 10% of the developer's time. This continuous activity ensures that upcoming sprint backlog items are ready and well understood for future sprints, avoiding last-minute surprises or misunderstandings during sprint planning. For instance, the team might meet for an hour mid-sprint to clarify a complex user story. Refinement is not an event, but a continuous activity. Question 21. What is the time box for sprint planning? A. 8 hours for a 1-month sprint. B. 4 hours for a 1-month sprint. C. 2 hours for any sprint length. D. As long as needed to plan the sprint. Answer: 8 hours for a 1-month sprint. Sprint planning is time-boxed to a maximum of 8 hours for a 1-month sprint. For shorter sprints, the event is usually shorter. This time box ensures that the planning process is efficient and doesn't consume an excessive amount of the team's time, while still allowing for thorough discussion and forecasting. For example, a 2-week sprint planning would typically be time-boxed to 4 hours. Remember, time boxes are maximums, not targets, encouraging brevity and focus. Question 22. What is the purpose of the product goal? A. To serve as a long-term objective for the product owner to fulfill. B. To define the scope of the next sprint. C. To commit the developers to delivering a specific set of features by a certain date. D. To describe a future state of the product which can serve as a target for the Scrum team to plan against. Answer: to describe a future state of the product which can serve as a target for the Scrum team to plan against. The product goal is the long-term objective for the Scrum team. It describes a future state of the product, acting as a target to which the product backlog is incrementally built. Each sprint brings the product closer to achieving the product goal, providing clear direction and alignment for the team. For example, a product goal could be, become the leading online photo editor for mobile users. It's a commitment that guides the entire product's evolution, not just a single sprint. Question 23. What is the primary service of the Scrum Master to the organization? A. Managing the budget and resources for the Scrum team. B. Coaching the organization in its Scrum adoption, planning, and implementation. C. Ensuring that all stakeholders approve the increment. D. Reporting the progress of the Scrum team to upper management. Answer: coaching the organization in its Scrum adoption, planning, and implementation. The Scrum Master serves the organization by leading, training, and coaching it in its Scrum adoption. This includes helping employees and stakeholders understand and enact an empirical approach, and removing barriers between stakeholders and Scrum teams. For instance, a Scrum Master might educate a department on how to best collaborate with a Scrum team. The Scrum Master acts as a change agent, fostering a culture that supports Scrum principles across the entire organization. Question 24. What are the three pillars of empiricism? A. Planning, execution, review. B. Transparency, inspection, adaptation. C. Collaboration, self-organization, cross-functionality. D. People, process, product. Answer: transparency, inspection, adaptation. Empiricism relies on these three pillars to enable teams to make decisions based on observed reality rather than speculation. Transparency ensures that the process and work are visible to those performing the work and those receiving it. Inspection involves checking progress toward a sprint goal to detect undesirable variances. Adaptation means adjusting a process or product as soon as possible if any deviations are detected. For example, the sprint review provides an opportunity for inspection and adaptation based on the increment. These pillars are fundamental to how Scrum teams learn and improve. Question 25. Who is responsible for tracking the overall progress toward the product goal? A. The Scrum Master. B. The developers. C. The product owner. D. The project manager. Answer: the product owner. The product owner is accountable for maximizing the value of the product, and part of this accountability involves tracking and communicating progress toward the product goal. This often involves using various forecasting techniques and making the product backlog transparent to stakeholders. For instance, the product owner might use burn-up charts or release forecasts to communicate the product's trajectory. The product owner continually assesses how well the current work aligns with and progresses towards the long-term vision.